Happy Tuesday afternoon, everybody. Nicky, Steez here. Today, we got in store for you. We're going to talk about the NBA Finals and the Boston Celtics winning their 18th, I repeat, 18th championship in franchise history. And we're going to do some mock drafts here. We're going to go over the 2024 NBA draft a little bit. But let's get right into it. We start off with the Boston Celtics winning their 18th championship in franchise history in 5 games over the Dallas Mavericks, closing it out at home last night in impressive fashion with a big win. You had Jaylen Brown winning the MVP. You had a big game from Tatum and Brown yesterday in that 106-88 victory. But hey, man, as a Sixers fan, a lot of Sixers fans out here, we wanted the Mavericks to win out of our disdain for the Celtics. But obviously it didn't happen. Boston was the better team. They outplayed the Dallas Mavericks, and they had more depth on the roster. And ultimately, hey, they won the championship. So, hey, congrats to the Boston Celtics, man. They did what they needed to do. Now, we just wish, as Sixers fans, for one, that we had the front office the Boston did. And this really all started about a decade ago when Boston was starting to go on the downswing. They fired Doc Rivers after a playoff elimination in 2013. Some of their star players were aging, and the Nets were willing to take the Celtics star players, mainly KG and Pierce, and they're willing to give up futures for it. So Boston's like, hey, we'll just start this thing over from scratch and build for the future. And it worked out. So this is part of a joke that Billy King, yes, that Billy King that gave us Sixers fans a headache, played a role in this championship win. And he did. But as far as the finals itself goes, look, man, you clearly saw this team was carefully constructed. And they've had some good teams for years now. They've gotten close a few times, but they just couldn't get over the hump. And this year, 2024, was finally the year they did it. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown get that finals win that they sorely needed. And we saw it here. We saw they had much more depth on the roster. You had between Tatum, Brown, or Brown Tatum, whatever order you want to list those two guys in. Porzingis came in. He was an X factor for this team. He showed up in time for the finals, and he played a significant role. You also had, of course, Drew Holiday. Remember, Sixers fans, Drew Holiday, the guy we gave up years ago? Yep, he played a role on this team as well. And you had Derek White stepped up, and he was the true X factor for this team in the finals. And not just in the finals, but throughout the playoff run too. And we kind of underestimate Boston's playoff run because we saw who they were beating. We're like, they had an easy path to the finals. They beat a Jimmy Butler-less Heat. They beat the Cavs in the second round, who were dealing with some injuries there. You had Donovan Mitchell was out for a game. And then you also had, the conference finals against the Pacers. The Pacers, we thought at the time, well, they played good, but Boston was just the better overall team. They didn't play the competition the Mavs did. But when you look at it now, you think about it. Boston had more depth on their roster. And when you look at it from Dallas's standpoint, they didn't have much depth. But then again, you think about the teams Dallas beat to get there. They beat the Clippers. How much depth did the Clippers really have on their roster? Of course, you had Kawhi, Paul George, James Harden, role player Russell Westbrook. And how many other notable players did you really have on that Clippers team that said this team has the depth to make a deep run? You think about it, you didn't see that. Then you go on to the second round, the Thunder. They got some nice young players there. But hey, Dallas managed to beat them in that series. They beat that SGA, Chet Holmgren team, Josh Giddey-led team. But outside, you had Isaiah Joe's a decent player off the bench, but he doesn't really move the needle like some of the players on Boston's bench do. Then they beat the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. And who did the Timberwolves really? You got your Rudy Gobert, but what happened with Rudy Gobert when it mattered most? He was a no-show. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns did their best. But outside of that, you have Naz Reid, but he wasn't really that significant a factor. So you kind of look at the teams that the Mavs beat to get there. They didn't have as well-rounded rosters as Boston did, and that plays a significant role in it. And that was the big thing for Boston. They played They did a great job loading their roster up. They got their star players there, and they got their role players there as well. I mean, this was a well-constructed roster too. I mean, you bring in Porzingis and you bring in the guy. You got Porzingis, then Drew Holiday, even Al Horford. Let's not forget him. Al Horford, even though he's not prime Al Horford, he's still a solid role player. Then you got Peyton Pritchard with that half-court shot at halftime. That was an awesome play right there. Sam Hauser's even a decent piece. I mean, this Boston team has some decent pieces. And not everyone on the team's a star player, but they don't need to be. They had the right blend of star players and role players. Similar to what Denver had last year that they were missing this time around. That could have helped them against Minnesota in the second round and possibly Mavs in the conference finals, but they didn't have that this year. But now that we compare Boston to Denver, we see both teams had a mix of stars and role players. And that's something teams that are looking to compete for a championship, looking at you, Daryl Morey, have to take into consideration going forward. So, yeah, if there's any lesson to be learned from this, it's back-to-back years. You saw teams with a good, solid roster from top to bottom make the run and go all the way to win a championship and have dominating runs, too. Don't forget that. So that's the biggest thing from this finals right here. And last night's game specifically, you had Kyrie only had 15. Josh Green had 14. He was one of the lead scorers for that team. And PJ Washington, where was PJ Washington last night? I mean, he was in the game physically, but mentally, where was he? I mean, that goes to show you right there why ultimately Boston won. And Kyrie wasn't all that hot either yesterday. Like I said, only 15. Luka tried his best with 28, but guess what? Boston showed you one player does not have to play hero all the time to win a championship. Actually, when the superstar isn't playing hero all the time, you're more likely to win a championship. But that's something the Mavs have to take in consideration for this offseason. They have to find ways to get some better role players around Luka and Kyrie to make this thing work next year. And that's something the Sixers got to do too, but that's another subject for another time. Now I'm going to switch gears. We're going to talk a little bit about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP. It's interesting because we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the Pick and Roll podcast. Going into the finals, we talked about when Brown's hot and everything runs through him and the offenses run through him, they're more likely to win big games. And guess what? Jaylen Brown being on his game helped lead to them winning the championship and him winning the Finals MVP over Jason Tatum. And this is what we said here, that some of us on the Pick and Roll podcast all said that we think Jaylen Brown's the real number one guy and Tatum's the real number two guy. And I think the finals proved that point. Not to take anything away from Tatum, no offense to him, because he did solid in the finals too. He did what he needed to do. Last night, he put up a solid performance offensively, so I'm not taking anything away from Jason Tatum. I'm just saying that I think Jaylen Brown's the real number one guy over him. Even though Jason Tatum's been marketed by the NBA as that star player. He's the poster boy for Boston on the poster of superstars. But I think Jaylen Brown, and a lot of others are probably going to agree with me, is the real star here. And they even wrote down some of his statistics throughout the finals. Let's see, points. Game 1, 22. Game 2, 21. Game 3, 30. Only had 10 in the fourth game, but 21 last night. And boards, he got 6 game 1, 4 game 2, 8 game 3, only 1 game 4, but that whole team was off there. Then last night he had 8. Even assists, it was 2, 7, 8, 2, and 6. So, hey, you also got some boards and some assists from Brown too, which played a key role in this win. So shout out to Jaylen Brown. And for him, I think this is his statement of, hey, I'm here, I'm the star. Don't be surprised if finally even the sports media starts shifting their perspective, leaning more toward, okay, Jaylen Brown's the real guy here. I think the fans have definitely already started to do that, especially through this playoff run. But hey, and congrats to Jaylen Brown and congrats to the Jason Tatum, the rest of the Boston Celtics do. Congrats to Kristaps Porzingis. He gets his revenge story of finally winning a championship. And, congrats to Drew Holiday. He gets to add another chip to his resume. Wait, was he in Milwaukee when that happened? But let me check real quickly. But Drew Holiday, yeah, he gets to have a chip to his resume here. Now, I think he was in New Orleans, but yeah, congrats to Drew Holiday on that run. Congrats to Derek White. This team, all the players itself, even though I'm a Sixers fan, look, the players deserve it. And even as a Sixers fan, I say, look, Drew Holiday, this is the perfect rub it into the Sixers organization right here. This is what you get for years of poor drafting, poorly played. No, wait, he was on that championship route. Wait, so this is Drew Holiday's second chip. So congrats to Drew Holiday on another chip. Sorry it didn't work out as planned early on with the Sixers, but hey, Drew Holiday sure they made up for it as a role player. But hey, that's the note. The Sixers should take notes here that guys like Andre Iguodala and Drew Holiday, who were considered the star players for their team, were better suited as role players. And that's no offense there. Give me one moment. All right, I'm back. So I had to stop real quickly there for something else. But as we were saying, now it's interesting. You see the Sixers start to see that some of the guys who were the top guys on their team, like Iguodala and Holiday at the beginning of the 2010s, did better as role players. Not to say they weren't good players, because they are, but they weren't guys that you really run the teams through. And now you see it again with Drew Holiday. But Sixers should take note here on how to manage a team properly from this. Especially you, Daryl Morey. But anyhow, I don't want to get too off subject. But yeah, congrats to the Boston Celtics and congrats to their players on a finals win, well deserved. I think for most teams now, they got to step up their game during free agency and bid to say, hey, look, bidding, try to get these role players. For the Sixers, go. Try to get your Malik Monks. Bring Kelly Oubre Jr. back. Try to get Bogdan Bogdanovic. Try to get those guys if you're the Sixers. That can be role players here. We had that opportunity to get Burke and Bogdanovic, get Tobias out of Philly, trade to Detroit, but the Sixers passed on it. This big oopsie doopsie, right? Now, granted, those guys haven't won championships yet, but they would have been more fitting of where the NBA is currently as in, hey, you need some role players. You got to get the role players to help you win. But yeah, hey, no. But yeah, congrats to the Boston Celtics. But we're going to switch gears here. It's going to be 1 minute. Be right back. We're going to come back. I'm going to talk about the NBA draft. Going to do a few mock drafts. Stay tuned. 1 minute. I'm back, folks. Now we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about the 2024 NBA draft. This is good so far, though. Let's start off with some opening thoughts. This draft, honestly, I'm looking at it. It's not that strong a draft class. It's not. I'm looking at it, feels like one of the weaker draft classes when I look at it. I mean, and I do have I'm on my looking at my laptop. I got a website, nbadraft.theringer.com. Now, I don't know if it'll work through my computer with multiple tabs. It might cause my computer to overheat. So you know what I'll do? I'll just share the link with you guys in the chat. I'll just share the link with you guys in the chat. You guys want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. I'll also share the link to this one. I'll share the link to it. Here it is right here if you guys want to follow along. So I'm going to look at this draft. So I'm looking at it right here. So far, looking at the big boards. Here's what the big board has. You have Stefan Castle, UConn freshman, fresh off national championship, being compared to Andre Iguodala. That's the top. That's one of the top. That's the top one on the big board. With all due respect to Iggy, though, and Iggy was a good player for the Sixers, but he wasn't that guy that moved the needle to win a championship. He was better suited as a role player on the Golden State Warriors. So if that's the top comparison there. With all due respect to Iguodala, that's a sign that this is a weak draft class. Then you go down, you got UConn center Donovan Clingan, shades of Roy Hibbert. But we ultimately know what ends up happening with Roy Hibbert. He didn't live up to the hype. You got G League Ignite, Montez Bulzis, shared to Lamar Odom, who, I mean, these are solid players, but when you see draft day comparisons to these guys, they don't stand out like, oh, draft day comparison to Shaquille O'Neal or David Robinson or Kobe Bryant or Allen Iverson. They don't stand out in that regard. And you get Reed Shepard getting shades of Derek White, which right now looks pretty good, all things. And then you get Alex Sarr being compared to Jaren Jackson Jr., Jonathan Isaac. Solid players, but they don't stand out as like, oh, this is going to be the next big star. Then you're going to love this one, Sixers fans. Zachary Rizicher from France, shades of Tobias Harris. At this point, in June 18th, 2024, that is the worst comparison you could get right there. That is. And then you get 8th, 7th on there is Devin Carter, shades of Bruce Brown. Okay, solid role player, but if these are the top guys in a draft class and you're a team picking in the lottery, you're just looking forward to another year of tanking before you have your chance to get your hands on a star. If anything, that's not a good sign for the quality of this draft class. But nevertheless, we're just going to go through and run with it anyway. So here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start off. I'm going to do one round first. Going to do one round full draft, controlling all the teams. Then I'm going to do a few mocks with the Sixers. See what I get out of that. So we're going to get this thing going. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share the screen with you guys. We'll do one round mock draft first, full first round, all 30 picks. Then what I'm going to do after that is then we're going to go and do a few with the Sixers. So I'll do like 2-3 Sixers mock drafts. And then after that, yeah, we're going to call the show here. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow on the Pick and Roll podcast. But that's what's going to be for this final stage here for these mock drafts. Let's get this thing rolling. All right, so I'm going to share the screen with you guys. We can get to it. Going to do what's going to be our one round mock draft. We're going to select all here. Hold on a second. All right, scratch that. We just gonna do the Sixers here. We're just gonna skip ahead and we're gonna do the Sixers here. Let's do this. 2 rounds for the Sixers. Low draft. Let's do this. Let's see what happens here. I got Zachary Retcher, Alex Starr, Donovan Klingen. That makes sense. They need a big man, point guard to the Spurs. Kolya Topic, Devin Carter, Ron Holland. Your pick. Let's see whose option we got. Jared McCain from Duke, Zach Edey, Purdue, Johnny Funklum. I think at this point for me, and if you guys want to comment, let me know who you think I should take. Feel free to do so. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think. But I'm thinking go with the best player available is what my mindset. I'm going to go with the best player available. Jared McCain, who's given shades of Seth Curry. And you know what? I wouldn't mind having him as a bench guy because Seth Curry was a good bench guy for us that 2020-21 season, even the following season before the Nets trade. I wouldn't mind having a guy similar to a Seth Curry. If you guys wonder where I'm getting that comparison from, here's the link to that right there. I got that on a separate tab because I don't want too many tabs open because for whatever reason, my computer, it doesn't do well with multiple tabs being open. But then again, my MacBook Pro is a slightly outdated, so that's part of the reason why. But at this point, let's see, pluses, jump, launches, jump shooters off, feel for the game, pull up threat, catch and shoot threat. He can fire while moving either side. Step back. Methodical ball handler who knows how to use pace angles. Talented, selfless passer who runs a good post pick and roll. Hard-nosed defender who can handle point of attack defense, fighting over screen. And then you got Zachary Edey. Shades of Zubac. And at this point, I'm leaning more toward Jared McCain at this point. Because I'm thinking, hey, if he can be like a Seth Curry guy who can score off the bench, that's nice. We need those guys. If we can do that and also go in free agency, go for guys like Malik Monk or try to go get Bogdanovic, that would be good. So I think Jared McCain, if he really is like a Seth Curry type, this could be a good addition. Now, we don't know if he would actually pan out to be such, but remember, this is a mock draft too. So this is really for fun. Now, let's see. And I'm going to do several of these right here. Let's see. I think we got shooting guards. Are there any small forwards or power forwards available? Hey, Dylan Jones from Weber State. I don't know. Should we? I mean, it's only a mock draft, so I do it. You guys can let me know what you think. If it turns out to be shitty, it's okay. It's just a mock draft. It's not real. We're going to do several of these run throughs, so let's try it. Let's just go with Dylan Jones. This one. So we got ourselves a guard off the bench and a potential small forward this time. Oh, there's Bronny to the Warriors. All right, so guard, point guard. Do we have a grade here? No. We're going to do this over again. We're going to go slower this time so I can read off what's going on with you guys. Let's do it. Let's do this. Our second go. Let's take a look at the big board. Let's see Trades. All right, let's run this. Sar this time goes first. Rossier second. Klingen, Shepard, Castle, Schnipp, Topic, Boselness, Dillingham, Ron Holland, Solon, Cody Williams, Devin Carter, Walter. All right, let's see. We went Jared McCain last time. Is there anything else we could go this time? It's a little different. Let's see who's available. All right, let's try something a little different. Who's available? Let's see who's available. Let's see. I don't really see too many appealing options here. I'm looking at this. I think the most appealing option again is Jared McCain. I want to do something different, but damn, this draft class. So you had Johnny Furphy, who's getting Cam Johnson, Doug McDermott comparisons. I'd rather have McCain from Duke at this point. I mean, look, I'm looking at him like, dude, I'm not a fan of this draft class. I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not, but this is just not a good draft class to me. And you can kind of see it right there. You can kind of see the writing on the wall. So to me, I mean, this is the draft class really that if a team was ever going to trade picks for a superstar, this would be the draft class to do it for me. This would be the draft class to say, hey, we're going to trade for a superstar. And I personally wouldn't mind. Then you got, let's see, I'm looking for a big. We got Adam Bona, shades of Montrezl Harrell and Bismack Biyombo. Oh no. Cameron Christie, is he? Oh, great. Another guard, bro. At this point, I would honestly rather trade this pick away to get a big or just trade this away for a future pick and then just go for a second round pick next year or something. This is a lopsided trade. In what way? At this point, bro, really, I would rather just trade it and go for a decent center in free agency, honestly. I'm not really, you can tell I'm not a fan of this draft class. So I might just do one more round. Whatever happens, happens. One more mock. We'll see what happens. And called it. And this time it's got Brawny going to the Mavs. Yeah. Yeah, sure. 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 Good luck with that. And this time, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go with someone different this time. Just to see what happens. Just to see what the result is. I'm going to pick whoever's the second best. Wait, Jared McCain went this time. So I got Devin Carter's the top prospect. Let's see. So our top prospect, Devin Carter, is getting comparisons to. We got to scroll down just to find him. Great sign right there. Oh, that's looking real promising. This is really promising. Devin Carter, shades of Bruce Brown. You know what? I'll take it. Let's see, average 19 points per game, 8.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Plus his lockdown point of attack defender who stays seated in his stance and harasses opponents. Super active rebounder. That's all the little things on offense. Excellent at rim finishing, can hit difficult layups against length and contact. Either hand. Or of a slasher. Making 40% of his threes. You know what? I think Devin Carter, if he's a Bruce Brown type, I'll take it. Even if he needs some time to develop, give it to me. I'll take it. All right, so that would even Devin Carter would be a solid second option. Now, I'm going to try a pick here the second round. I'm going to try with our pick. Whatever happens, happens. And here I'm looking for a small forward or a... Let's see what this Kevin McClure is. Let's see what he's all about. Boy, let's see. I'm going to have to scroll down here on my Kindle and let's see who... For those of you guys wondering, that link on the screen is the link to the tab I have open on my Kindle where I'm looking at these reports. So if you guys want to look at it on your computer, do so. The only reason I'm not sharing it with you guys, because my computer, I'm running an old MacBook Pro. It sometimes overheats when too many tabs are open at once. So I'm just going to do it that way. I figured sharing the screen with you guys for when I'm looking at my Kindle, the link to it will be the second best thing I can do. Kevin McCullough. Let's see. What do we got here? We got Kevin McCullough. See, I'm going to have to do... Okay. Is there a scouting report? Give me a second. Oh, Kevin McCullough. He's not popping up. I want to see what this guy is. He's a small forward. Give me 1 second, folks. Yeah, if you guys want, thanks for your patience. Give me 1 second. See, he's from Kansas. He played at Texas Tech, then at Kansas. All right, let's do a little bit of research on this. You know what? He is a small forward. Let's just take him and do some research afterward and see if this is a good pick or not. Either way, let's see. He actually did play a full college career, though. So he actually does have some experience and more maturity. He stepped up in points per game his final year. Let's see, chance available at pick, 10%. So there's also a chance we might not even get him. Honestly, bro. I'm not feeling this draft class. I'm really not. I'm not a fan of this draft class at all. I mean, I'm just looking at it, I'm kind of like, yeah, if there was ever a draft class, you were either going to trade for a second next year or invest in free agency and build up your bench through that. This would be the draft class to do so. I can see a lot of draft picks going in this draft. Oh, I see what you mean. A lot of these draft picks getting traded. Yeah, I feel you because this does not look like a promising draft class at all. I would just say, honestly, if you're the Sixers, take a first round pick. You can get a guy with a Seth Curry or Bruce Brown comparison. That could be a decent role player for us. And then trade the second. I mean, get a second next year or something. Go for Malik Monk in free agency off the bench. Bring Kelly Oubre back. At this point, that would be the preferred strategy. Invest in that first round pick. I mean, that's it, man. So give my concluding thoughts on what I took away from these mock drafts. I'm saying if you're the Sixers, if Devin Carter falls, and take him if he falls, but the odds that they get him are lower. It's honestly more likely we get Jared McCain. And if he's available, take him. If you feel like you got to trade up a few spots to get him, do so. This trip was a couple years ago. That's what's crazy. Yeah, right before we even got the chance to really see what these guys did at college. Yeah, so I'd say either trade up to get a Jared McCain. Maybe you might have to trade a spot or two up in the first round. Take that second round. Get rid of that second. Get in the second next year. Build that bench through free agency. That's really the best I can say for the Sixers in this one, man. This is not that strong a draft class, but hey, it happens. I even compared this to the 06 draft class a week ago. I'm looking at the top players that came out of that. They're the likes of J.J. Redick and Kyle Lowry, and Kyle Lowry was a good player for the Raptors, but he was never an elite player. J.J. Redick was a solid role player, but he was never a real star player. And this year's draft class kind of has 06 draft class vibes to it. But we'll also have to see what happens. I'll leave it at that. So to everyone that tuned in, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the views. Thanks for everyone that commented in the chat. And yes, absolutely. I'll definitely take Malik Monk over 95% of the guys in this draft class and build the bench that way. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, shout out to Jadarius, Mitch Kofsky, everyone that watched on Twitter, YouTube side. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. And I will catch you guys next time. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be on the Pick and Roll podcast. It'll be me, Mitch. If everyone does show up, you also have Blaze, Next Shift Brandy, Coach Ed Gladney, TRL. And just Rios from Just Fan Podcast, if everyone shows up. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Nicky Steez signing off, and I'll catch you next time.